You're just in time for our weekly chat. And welcome to my channel. This is Justin. And for this specific series, I'm planning to do something like on a weekly basis, just a sit down discussion like this and talk about whatever topic you want to talk about outside of the Global Career Scholarship Program. I've been doing a lot of videos about GKS, the Global Career Scholarship Program, how to do it, application, and then tips and tricks. But more than the scholarship program, I think there are a lot of things you have to know and you have to see and have to experience, especially if you want to do the life here in South Korea. Because in my Haja episodes, a lot of the topics I have been discussing is always related to the Global Career Scholarship Program. It's not that I don't want to talk about it, it's just that I want to talk more about the life here, because the scholarship studying is just a slice of the cake. It's a portion of your life, probably a stepping stone. But once you're here in South Korea, that's a different story, because aside from different issues, probably challenges in school, that could be minuscule in terms of size, because working here, living here, it's a different story, as I mentioned. And I hope in this Sunday discussions we can discuss or probably shed light on these topics and give more attention, because I think these are things that you have to know. And I hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy this video. Let's go. As I have been mentioning in my previous videos, I have been working here in South Korea for almost a year and 7 months. I'm arriving here in 2021, did my Korean language classes, and then did my master's. So I completed my master's in 2024, and then before I actually graduated, I started doing part-time job in my same company. And after a year and 7 months, it's still become very busy and so many things to do. And now they don't treat me as an intern anymore. It's more of a staff already. There's a difference between being a staff and an intern, because in terms of expectation, you're expecting more with staff than interns. Like for example, if you make mistakes as an intern, it's easier for them to pass it off as if it's okay, it's an intern mistake. But if you're a staff, you're expected to perform the basic activities, and even if you're a foreigner, you're up to the same standards as a normal staff here in South Korea. So there's this certain expectation that you have to do well, because first, you're not Korean, so it's easier for them to remove you in the job, especially if you're not a permanent if you're not in a permanent position. And then there's also this expectation that you have to do better because you're easily replaceable. Those things come into my mind when I started working in my company. And probably that's one of the guiding principles I always keep in mind, that I can be replaced if I don't do well. And that's why I tried my best to make a specialist in terms of the field I'm working on, to the point that it will be very difficult for them to replace me immediately, because I have activities within my scope, but I also participate outside of my scope. In the Philippines, we call it pabibo, but sometimes in South Korea, it's the way to go, especially for foreigners. Because as mentioned, there's this notion of you being easily replaceable. And if you won't be able to upskill, probably train yourself, engage yourself, and involve yourself, it's very difficult for them to get this buy-in that you can stay or eventually be hired full-time. That's also a different story. Because if you're hired full-time, that's more of a long-term activity. And they won't be investing to someone that they don't see staying in the company for a long time. So again, although it is contradictory to what I've mentioned in the first few days of my Haja episodes, I want to share this. If you want to stay and longer here in South Korea for a long term, make sure to show them what you have, what the skills that you have. It might give you more task to do, but again, the thing is, you want them to see your value, and at the end of the day, see that you are irreplaceable. Sorry, Beyonce. So that's the thing. And also, when you already are on the job market, having a job is the most difficult process actually finding a job. So from the interview stage and everything, it's one of the most difficult process because it's different from the outside Korea standards. Because here they have so many things that you want you to do in terms of requirements. I'll be talking about that on a separate video because that's more of deep dive into finding work here in South Korea, which could be a good topic for next Sunday session. But for now, I'll be talking more about my life. And then, so outside of work, I do a lot of activities like play volleyball, help in terms of the community building, especially for Filipino communities here in Southeast Asian communities here in South Korea. I tried myself to continue these activities because I think it's very important for students to have their guide. And unfortunately for me, when I was studying, I had no guide. It's more of me navigating life here in South Korea on my own, finding my own track, finding my own voice. And as a person who's trying to give back to South Korea, the best way for me to do that is actually help my co Southeast Asian and Filipino students here in a way that they don't have to experience the struggles. They just have to learn from those who struggled, which is part where I belong. I'm the one who struggled. Anyways, that's a thing. And actually, that's how simple life here in South Korea can be. You can add drop of traveling from time to time, probably do shopping, and do experience the Korean culture. In Korea, every Wednesday, last Wednesday of the month, I think, yeah, this week, next week's Wednesday, there'll be a 50% off. I think in majority of cultural activities, and I think it's free entrance for Gyeongbokgung Palace, the one of the biggest palaces here in South Korea. Usually it's like 2,000 or 1,500 Korean won, but on Wednesdays to encourage people visiting these kinds of cultural heritage sites, they open it for free, which is something I like, especially in Korea, because there's so many things to visit, especially in Seoul, and that's something that you should maximize if you're here in South Korea to avoid yourself getting into stuck into burnt out and boredom feeling. Go out, but not today, not this week, because it's it's very hot. Summer here in South Korea, so a lot of people just rarely go out and just stay inside and be in the aircon and then sleep. That's the usual thing. Even for myself, I during this season I just go to gym, just go back, go to volleyball court, go back. I rarely stay outside, which is unusual for me because my usual cycle is after eating lunch or dinner, I would walk outside. But I like exploring, like walking and just listening to music. That's the thing in South Korea. Any time you feel bored, it's up to you to kill that boredom. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. And they don't really care much about other people's activities in terms of what they are doing. If they're taking a vlog, if you're doing vlog outside, they won't really care. They might look at you once or twice, but like, see, they won't really care much about it. And that's the thing. Some people might say it's apathetic, but sometimes they're more of like they are keen into minding their own business because they don't want other people going through their business as well. So they don't give the energy to the other people, so they won't receive it back. Jumping to another topic here. I'll be jumping to another topic because recently I was scrolling my Facebook feed and I saw a post from Korea Times. That's one of the online newspaper organizations here in South Korea. And they're mentioning about the recent handouts for relief coupons from the government. So the government here in South Korea, upon election, they made sure to elevate and stimulate consumption through a relief coupon. And they stipulated which type of visa holders can receive the coupons. Aside from the citizens, the Korean citizens, they also included some groups that they deemed to be able to receive the coupon. Unfortunately for me, my F2 visa is not eligible, but there are other types of visa eligible. And then there are like Korean spouse, like refugee, a family of Korean, something like that. And I saw this post in Korea Times saying that a lot of Koreans are actually mocking this naturalized Korean women for receiving the stimulus package. And It all boils down actually to racism. These Koreans that are mocking this naturalized woman, they're actually saying that why is she receiving this money? Why? Like as if she's not entitled to it. And then I saw a lot of comments saying that actually we those even us F27 people are actually should be entitled to receive the stimulus package. Because bottom line is we also pay taxes. I mean, we also give taxes, we also pay taxes, VAT, and also our salary are taxed. Everything we do here are taxed. So I cannot reconcile the fact that a lot of Koreans, if up until today, are still resistant to receiving or welcoming Koreans, considering the fact that almost 2% of their population are foreigners already. And that's something that you might have to consider when you go here to South Korea because in the age of globalization, that's something that's not really acceptable anymore. It's very tiring in terms of I feel very tired defending the notion that Korea wants to be a heterogeneous country that no one stands out. But I think in this age and day that people move from one place to another and we don't just move here to enjoy. We move here to work. We might be a competition for the job market, but we a lot of foreigners are actually filling in the jobs that Koreans don't want to do. And these are the dangerous jobs, these are the difficult jobs, these are the dirty jobs. And a lot of Koreans won't really settle for those kinds of jobs. And the government's option, hire more foreigners. And that's the thing. That's actually baffling me because in terms of benefit, we they have more benefit if they have more foreigners here in South Korea. I'm talking about the Korea and the Korean government. They have more benefits of having foreigners here in South Korea instead of foreigners going here. Here's the reason why. Foreigners going here would have to learn Korean, and that's an additional step. Foreigners going to Korea have to adjust the Korean culture. We have to endure. A lot of people would have to endure Korean cursing, Korean bosses that are angry for no reason at all, and the only reason is actually because we're foreigners, and that's a fact here. I'm not gonna sugarcoat things here because the Sunday discussion is meant to be open, free discussion, and I hope you want to see the light on where I'm going into. Because again, in the end of the day, if you're planning to live here in South Korea, you might experience some of these racism. And again, going back to those people working here, so they would do the dirty job, do the difficult job, the dangerous jobs. A lot of Koreans will not be doing those, and they would want to go to the city, to the even farming. Farming is now being done by foreigners. The main source of food are not just Koreans anymore. They are being managed, plowed, watered by foreigners. So I cannot reconcile again. I cannot reconcile the concept of why they are mocking this naturalized woman for receiving the stimulus package and showing indication of resistance to welcoming foreigners, given the fact that by 2025 or 2030, almost 3 million foreigners will be staying in South Korea, and that's a fact. And again, in the end of the day, actually, that's one of the reasons why I have repercussions in terms of staying here, living here in South Korea, and probably eventually, if I have the option, getting my Korean citizenship. Although I'm open to that possibility, but I'm not really fully convinced that I'll be able to integrate myself, given the fact that I'm not naturally born Korean. And also, the fact of the matter is, I see a lot of comments saying like they don't want their children marrying foreigners because they want to keep their bloodline pure in terms of like pure Korean. And I get it, very old tradition, like purity in terms of blood, but let's see how it will happen, because a lot of foreigners, a lot of Koreans, men and women, are not really interested in marrying their own kind anymore. Majority of them are exploring opportunities and probably relationships outside of Korea, and some of them even don't want to live here in Korea, probably renounce their Korean citizenship just for one of the reasons would be the military service. But that's another story. But again, I hope this notion of like we're just Koreans, foreigners are just burden to the Korean economy be removed and be replaced with appreciation of what we contribute to this economy. Because as I mentioned, we are replacing the backbone of this society by doing the dirty, dangerous, difficult jobs. And yeah, I might sound like I'm sharing my frustration. It's just because I am really frustrated. There are instances wherein they're good in terms of treating foreigners, but majority of the time they're not. At the same time, they tend to pick the foreigner that they would show their good side. And that's another tricky dividing story. They would show more appreciations for the Europeans and the Americans, and then less preference to Southeast Asian, Africans, and like South Asians, which is a fact. And I think a lot of Koreans will not be denying this because there is this natural notion for them to incline to move towards and have preference to the white. That's their preference. I don't have to say anything about it, but like that's something that has to change. And anyways, that's another slice of what Korean life could be. And again, if you're still interested of living and moving here in South Korea, those are the things that you have to consider. Aside from adjusting to the Korean culture, Korean language, adjusting to the Korean life, you also have to see if you'll be able to fit to the society. And I think I also saw one video about pretty privileges, especially in South Korea. It's very evident. And if they see you that you look good, or there are attributes that they want, that they see from you, like for example, they like your eyes, they like your nose, they like your, for example, in my case, the guys would like my mustache and everything, they would treat you better. If your eyes are very good, like it's big, it's round, or almond shaped eyes, they like it. If your nose is not that pointed, or it's like not that sharp, they would like it. Your lips are full, they would like it. That's a thing. They also have this preference to the appearance. So looking good sometimes translate to having more privileges here in South Korea. I don't experience those such things. I just saw them in the news as well. And again, that's also playing to the notion of certain color, certain appearance, certain hair structure, these things. And it might sound superficial, but it is superficial. Because I think in terms of as humans, we should be, initially we were wired to see beauty externally, but we have gone far to that concept that we value more of what you can contribute in terms of talent, skill, capabilities, your inner beauty, and we look beyond what is presented outside. But yeah, that's the life here in South Korea. And if you have more topics that you want me to discuss beyond the Global Career Scholarship Program, feel free to write them in the comment section. I would like to discuss them like this, or probably invite some guests, some of my friends, probably to share some lights and comments and provide some discussion on these topics. And watch out for our next video next Sunday, and see you in the next video.